And I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately, isn't it? What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the out pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Oh, Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Typical, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down it towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of the line. It's now Pike going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's touched on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot of fun. Yeah. And
It's all about the entertainment.
so I hope
So
everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself
Oh,
watching the Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Coming down to
Does
the
he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it! They haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's touched on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along. It's time for PRL Tier 2 for Round 3 here at Season 12. We're in Portugal once again, as we were last night, at the Portimao roller coaster. And after last night's exciting race, battle for the win, battle for third, we hope for more of the same this evening. My name is Darragh Thacker. Joining me in the commentary booth once again is JGM, Joshua, Griffin, Meek, and Josh. We had a great race yesterday for the win and for P3. You didn't really know where it was going to go until the line. We really hope we can get more of this action tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, the little game of DRS Chicken as well just sums it all up. Everything was micromanaged. We heard it from the drivers in the interviews yesterday as well. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of these drivers in for interviews as well today. But just understanding the sort of dynamic they went around the race. They wasn't trying to necessarily one up each other at any given standpoint. We had a lot of fuel saving going on as well. So it's certainly going to be interesting. I wonder if any of the drivers which may have competed yesterday or may have tuned in or watched it, had a little look, a little peer view here and there. Just really trying to understand it a little bit more. Maybe they might add a little bit more fuel. Maybe they might try and go for a slightly different strategy. But then again, safety car didn't really come out, did it?
No, I mean, we had that virtual very early on, didn't we? But apart from that, we went safety car free, which was quite enjoyable, actually. It meant that drivers could use their strategies. We saw some different strategies go on. I think it was Rabin in the Alfa Romeo going for a medium or a soft medium, or in some variation of the two-stop. So we'll have to see if anybody tries that tonight. I mean, if there's a little bit more brakes in the train, we might see a few more go for it.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. It was working out great until he ended up picking up the 3-second time penalty for track limits. But my thought about that is, did he feel like he was forced to go to a two-stop because of that VSC? How much of a role did that play on to his decision-making to go for it? Because we saw how long the medium tyres were lasting, and they seemed to be in decent nick by the end of the race. I feel like it's certainly going to be something we're going to keep an eye out, as well as this qualifying session that we're about to get into any minute now. Drivers who went out on that intermediate tyre, got themselves prepped up, understood the track a little bit more, just started, warming themselves up to the likes of turn 10, going back down the hill. We mentioned it yesterday, it's a very technical track, it's a bit like a roller coaster, it's a lot more elevation change going up and down between the corners than the likes of a Suzuka. So it's a very unique circuit, and there's a lot which drivers might not necessarily have anticipated heading into the qualifying session, whether that might be setup wise, driving style wise, because you've got to be so delicate on the throttle, especially going through, as you mentioned yesterday as well, turn 7 and 8, the double right-hander. It can be absolutely vicious if you try and get on the power just a millimetre too early and just try and put a little bit too much torque through the wheels. I mean, it could result in disaster for qualifying.
Yeah, you got to be careful, particularly putting the power down, as you mentioned, through quite a lot of these corners. You think of turn 4, you think of turn 8, and even at turn 10 as well, as it dives downhill at the end of the second sector. You've just got to be careful.
And we've not even mentioned turn 15.
Yeah.
How much time did we see? We might have seen a pole position get decided there because a person ended up having a slide on the rear, trying to get on the power too early. There's a lot of places here which you can be caught out if you don't have that little preparation time, if you've not necessarily done as much practice as you would like. It can be very awkward.
Yeah, it can be awkward for quite a lot of these drivers. Again, we talked about this yesterday, but it's a bit of a calendar that's a little bit difficult. Imola, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, and then we get onto some faster tracks and more overtaking circuits. You'd say Austria, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. You can get some trains, but you can still make overtakes. And then Belgium and Britain, where you can often see quite a few moves through those races. But, Josh, championship. I mean, after a couple of rounds in Tier 2, it is Craggy who leads the way. Not by much though. Rapido G is up there. MZ places in there as well. A few of these drivers did race last night, so they got some, I think you'd say, some very good practice for this track.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily even say practice. They've got the real deal, haven't they? They were in that atmosphere. They was in the competitive mindset to try and get the most out of that result. Despite filling in a reserve, there's still something in these drivers which makes them tick, and the want and the need to compete at a high level. It really can indicate that, and I feel like we saw that a little bit yesterday with some of these drivers really trying to push themselves in the qualifying and trying to push themselves at the front of the race and trying to just adapt to the circumstances they found themselves in. So hopefully today they'll be able to kind of get back on with it, clock back in, and be able to re-toggle the switch, as I think we called it yesterday, and get back into that zone. Hopefully, no lobby restarts this time, but We never know at the end of the day. It's sim racing, anything can happen. But I can show you right now, it is once again very, very sunny out here.
It's looking quite nice and pleasant here in Portugal. It's nicer than it was in qualifying yesterday, but just about as beautiful as it was for the race in Tier 1. We've got our first driver coming out of the pit lane. It is going to be Halo in the Alpha Tauri, and he's going to be the driver who's hoping to put the first lap time on the board. But lots of drivers, you have to say, who are going to be in that fight for pole. You're looking at the likes of Rapid, OG, Craggy, of course, as we mentioned, near the top of the championship. CJQ had a good qualifying last week in Spain, and even the likes of Shane, who, of course, didn't have a great qualifying, but came through the field to get a podium finish. So there's lots of contenders here.
Yeah. Komi-san, Donwar, Monster, all of them had great results last week around Spain, really tried to push themselves, especially during the race phase as well, because let's not remember, it's a 33-lap race around here. It's quite a long lap, as I was talking to Darragh before we ended up going live. I feel like the reason why it feels so long is because of the length of the track. It's all very quick, but there's so many corners which come at you, almost in succession, one after another. They all flow very nicely with one another, so you've got to try and find a way to maybe try and use a slightly different line to try and get an advantage on the cars in front. But again, with that being said, it can be very difficult. You get caught offline, you get marbles on your tyres, you're going to be losing performance through the corners. It's very much a give and take, and certainly something that Halo's looking to take here is going to be his banker lap, trying to get it prepped up here just about now, approaching into turn 15. He's going to be very careful when he applies a throttle, but he believe he might have just absolutely sent it through turn 15, which is beautiful to see.
Yeah, let's see what he can do then on his lap. As he crosses the line, he'll dive down back towards turn 1. Of course, the track just falls away from you. If we get to the opening corner, can make the turning in zone pretty difficult, as the braking zone isn't very long. Through turn 2 and into turn 3, of course, you have to keep rotating the car right. About 270 degrees of rotation right in the opening 3 corners, but then it's a 90 left uphill. Careful on the power, as we've mentioned. Open the DRS and run back down towards turn 5. 22.4, respectable opening sector on his bank lap, and you've got to get through the hairpin and get yourself on the power with some conviction through turn 6. But then, I mean, Josh, these are probably the 2 trickiest corners on the track, 7 and 8.
Yeah, the corners I hate the most. Whenever I've tried to put a car around here, I've never been able to keep it on the track. I believe I've never actually been able to keep it on the track. I always end up finding myself in the gravel, or I've ended up spinning and I've decided to quit off Portimao. But that's besides the point here. As we see him approaching now turn 12, it's one of those corners you can take a slightly different line because you're just trying to adjust it to make sure you get the braking point right for 13. A long left-hander. It feels a lot longer when you end up riding on board, but again, he might be able to pick up a lovely slipstream from the Red Bull in front of him here, who I do believe will be Dinatar in currently 18th place, but he's just about to start his lap as well. But you can see, once again, keeping it tucked over to that right-hand side, as you mentioned, Darragh, trying to find all the time possible.
Yeah, you've got to make sure you can get every single little millisecond out of the car, and a 17.8 is not a bad bank lap at all. Monster P2 at the moment with an 18.1, but he's not too far off in these early stages. Craggy's up there, but let's see what Craggy's teammate CJQ can do as he runs through the final corner, turn 15, and up towards the line. A couple of drivers just starting the lap times in front of him, and CJQ only good enough for the P4, slowest time so far, but again, not far off the fastest time, under 4 tenths away. Pelosi not going faster, but we might see some close times here. We might start to see some trains forming at the start of the race. I mean, Collateral Zoom puts himself in that mix as well. This could be quite a big race for pole.
Yeah, you've got to start thinking about the opportunities that these drivers have. I mean, we saw how close the championship standings are, and we're only 3 rounds in. Any sort of stride these drivers can take towards winning this Tier 2 championship is surely going to be a big boost of confidence as well, especially heading to those other circuits, like we mentioned, the likes of Austria, Abu Dhabi, in the near future. If we're able to get a solid result in qualifying and be able to defend off a pack, it'll give them a bit more confidence moving into those rounds, that when it does become more of a, overtaking friendly circuit, let's say, because this one's by no means terrible, but you do rely a little bit on the DRS just to make sure you can get yourself moving and get yourself grooving up through the places. Personally, for me, I would like a little bit more confidence knowing that I'm able to defend rather than go on the offensive. But that could just be me. These drivers might be looking just to get themselves in the middle, in the pack, and try and play a couple games like we saw yesterday. Throughout the rest of this, as we see Shane there popping in a 17 flat there. You can see the ERS light just barely started flashing before he ended up crossing the start-finish line, so that indicates there's still a little bit more time for Shane to grab there as he very politely removes the billboard from the circuit.
Yeah, knocking out the polystyrene there, but what a statement that is from Shane. 6/10 quicker than Crew Steamers so far. And who knows if he can go even quicker than that. Rapid, currently the next driver on a lap. We'll see what he can do as he runs through 7 and 8, just about keeping the car in a straight line, but you could just see a little bit of a wobble as he got onto the power, rising over the crest and diving back again through Nigel, just right back up the hill in towards turn 10. But the middle sector split is going to tell us quite a bit, and it tells us 52.4 again. That's not bad through the middle sector, and we'll see how he can finish it off through 13, 14 and 15. But I mean, that time from Shane, that is a complete that's a marker that they're all going to have to try and beat, but it's a massive marker. Yeah,
it really is. It's phenomenal lap time. But I suppose we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? Because we know track evolution, it was prominent last night. Is it going to be as prominent tonight? I feel like that could be remain to be seen, as we see Rapid OG popping himself up into P3 just after Komi-san finished their lap as well, popping themselves up into P2. But again, you've got to think that 4/10 gap, it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but on a racetrack, it's an awful lot, especially around the likes of Portugal.
Yeah, and when you add that up, I mean, it's a 33-lap race, so if you're adding that up, you're looking at about 13 seconds worth of difference over a race length, and that's more than half a pit stop, so you could try and go for an extra stop if that is your raw pace advantage. But we'll see what they all do. We're kind of in this phase between the first and the second runs. Of course, it's about 7 minutes gone in this session. Everyone tries to get in 3, that's for sure. As Dom, I think, is trying to join back to get in his car. But yeah, some drivers not setting lap times, but we've already got 15 drivers with the time on the board, which isn't bad at all. And I think that of those that are yet to set a lap time, they're all going to be trying to get on laps right now.
Absolutely, as we see RRL Beast here trying to give it a go in the Scuderia Ferrari, approaching, as you mentioned, down the dip into turn 1. From the pole, we discovered yesterday you couldn't even see the apex of turn 1 if you end up fortunate enough to start in pole position. But again, it can be a very daunting task going down that hill, trying to pick your braking point on lap 1. But I'm sure all these drivers are casting that to the back of their minds now and just trying to maximise every little bit of time they can find on this circuit for the qualifying. As we're starting to see the clouds take over, the track will cool down, it'll help the tyres keep a little bit cooler during these push laps. But at the minute, it's not looking too great for RRL, for Beast, is it? I mean, as I mentioned, that he's ended up invalidating over my favourite part of the circuit, where I definitely don't invalidate every single time. But he did have a little bit of a slide coming up out of turn 5, which wouldn't have helped his lap time. So it might be best if he's just able to go back on recharge, focus back up, and, well, dive it back around and give it another shot, because we've still got a little bit of time left to play in the session.
Yeah, we have. We've got quite a little bit of time, actually. More than half to go, and we've seen a lot of drivers trying to get on the board. We'll be trying once again. Alfredo not going to be on another run, I don't think, this time around. That red light, or those 3 red lights flashing at the back, showing that he is charging that battery up. Oliver in the red, but we didn't actually see a Red Bull car last night, so it's nice to see the Red Bulls on track, scoring some constructors' points this evening, but not the best of starts for Oliver, yet to get a time on the board, and he'll want to get one on soon, because the later we run into the session without a time, the more worried you get for your final run. Yeah,
the more worried you get, the more stressed you get. It can be a very daunting thing not being able to get a lap. But if you do get a lap, even if it is a slow one, you get that encouragement. You constantly see that green delta flashing in the top right of your screen. You understand you're improving, you'll get in there, and it just gives you that little bit of confidence. You might need to take a couple extra kilometres into the corner, into the apex, break it maybe 1 or 2 metres later to really try and perfect whatever sort of lap time you're going to be able to try and get, as we see Oliver there. Popping in a purple middle sector. I'm not sure whether that's the game feature telling us it's a purple sector or if it's a real purple sector. We'll have to wait and see, as Oliver here is looking to try and square it around 14. Rising up the hill here into 15. Once again, it's one of those awkward apexes. Will he keep it over to the right-hand side, though? No. He's electing to try and get a slight bit of a toe from that McLaren in front of them, but I don't think it was necessarily worth it too much. But he does pop himself up into P5 with a good lap time there, over 17.6. Showing he's got a bit of dominance in that middle part of his track.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, it does gain you just even thousandths of a second going that little tighter through the final corner. May have cost him a place on the second row in favour of his teammate for the moment. But we see Crew Steamers jumping up to P4 and Beast jumping up to P2, so 2 very quick times in quick succession. Alberto jumps up to P8 as well, the times are starting to tumble. And Beast coming up P2, it's currently a Ferrari 1-2, and that's exactly what the Scuderia want to see.
Yeah, and Shane's going quicker as well. He was up by 3 tenths out of that second sector, so it'd be very interesting to see what sort of lap time he's going to be able to put on the board here. Are we going to be able to break it into the 16s? It's looking very much likely. As you see, he's taking that tighter line like you mentioned, just saving a couple of extra thousandths. He's going to rise up to the line here with a 16.897. Brilliant lap time there from Shane, securing what would potentially be a very strong position for these for the Scuderia out on the front row.
Yeah, they'd love to be sitting in the front, wouldn't they? Because it's just the best seat in the house. You can try and dictate the pace from there, try and work your way with the strategy and get yourself in the best position. Zoom's not taking any further part. I think that was Halo jumping up to P3 as well. So you were definitely right earlier about the track evolution. Some of these drivers really finding some time. Gopher 3/10 up in the first sector alone. Middle sector split just coming up on the exit of turn 10. That didn't look nice. He's lost a couple of tenths through the middle sector. And something might tell me that he might lose another coming through this final. But we will see. He's coming in towards turn 14, the final meaningful corner, you'd say, because turn 15 is flat out. But what can Gopher do? I mean, he'd be hoping to get into the top 10, but he would need to make sure they didn't lose any time in this final sector compared to his last lap, keeping it tight round the final corner up to the line. And Gopher, currently P11, goes up into P7, did find a little bit of time in the final sector, but it just shows how tight these times are.
Absolutely. It's just whatever sort of minute performance you're able to gain really goes a long distance. As we see Rapid OG there finding 7/10. That puts him up for the battle with Poland. He's about to come through turn 15 here. What's he going to be able to put up on the board here? Because it's looking like a very solid lap from Rapid. And he didn't even move over to the right-hand side. And it's enough to take pole position there by 0.02 of a second. Brilliant stuff from Rapid OG in that Sauber Alfa Romeo car.
Yeah, Ferrari power working, I think it's fair to say.
Yes.
Top three, all powered by that Ferrari engine. But they're doing very well at the moment. It's going to be interesting just to see if Dom can try and join Rapid up there. He's had some connection issues, which may have affected the opening run, but we will wait and see. He's coming through.
You've cursed him. You've cursed him, Darragh, honest.
It was turn 8. It happens. These things do happen. But he'll have to try again as we see Darragh now coming through turn 9 and up into turn 10. But, I mean, the times are looking quite quick at the front, but as we've seen, these drivers can put their name up there. I mean, Darragh here, if he can find another 10th or so, he's on the second row.
Absolutely, but you can see he's already struggling with that little bit of ERS. It was low heading up into turn 10, and it's even lower now coming around to turn 15, so he's going to get that punishment of not having the full power of the engine. Very unfortunate, but still, where is he going to be able to put it? Is he going to be able to improve as well? That's going to be the next question, but it does look like a solid improvement. It's up to a 17 flat, 6/10 improvement there for Dinarte, getting that Red Bull on the second row. It's not quite where they usually are in real life, but I'm sure they wouldn't be too disappointed if they had Dinarte alongside Max Verstappen instead of a Sergio Perez.
Yeah, well, I'm interested though, because he had no ERS on for quite a long time there, and I'm amazed that he's managed to put it up in P3, maybe showing that he's got a little bit more pace in the car to unlock on a final run, but we'll wait and see. Craggies, of course, we saw before, believe championship leader coming into this one. He's currently P14, got some work to do, and again, he's flashing, so I don't know whether that's just...
Cool down. Surely a cool down lap.
Well, he's improving. I don't know if maybe this is another one of the game features that it shows that they're flashing.
It might very well be, but he is below 10% ERS, so perhaps he might be going for a second warm-up lap, because somehow he's still managing to find time. So it might be a game feature where it's telling us the wrong ERS. I suppose we'll have to wait and see through the second sector, because surely we'll be able to tell if he's decided to make up any extra time here. But you can see that battery is saying it's completely flat. And it's improving.
And also, he's not got enough fuel. I don't know whether we can go on board with Craggies here. We might be able to read his steering wheel. Just to see... Oh, there's rain! Well, hello!
Oh, that might be why.
I didn't expect that to happen. But,
that might be why that light's going.
But at the same time, I mean... I'm not too sure how he's improving here, if he's still improving. He's got no fuel, apparently, no ERS, and yeah, he does come into the pit lane. But it has started to rain, and what was once a wonderful day has turned into a British summer's day.
We shouldn't have said anything. I didn't bring an umbrella, Darragh. Shouldn't have said anything about the weather. It's typical, isn't it? We compliment the weather, saying it's nice, it's beautiful, and then it ends up getting the clouds over and it starts trickling down a little bit of rain. But I'm sure it'll give these drivers another little tedious quirk to work with around this very tedious circuit, of having that maybe not benefit, but that understanding that this track flows very well, goes up and down. There's a lot of places where, you know, the water can run down to, a lot of places where it can catch drivers out. Think about Catalonia as well, coming out of well, going through the Rallycross Stadium where Nick de Vries quite often spun in the practice session when it was wet because it had a little puddle there. Perhaps we could see something very similar here with so much undulation in the track. It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing maybe one or two of a little puddle start to form in the lower segments before it ends up properly deciding to chuck it down. But drivers still out trying to improve their laps. Braver than me, Darragh.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying, but I'm not too sure many are going to be able to really make a dent here, because I'm not too sure that the track's going to... the track does seem to get quite wet quite quickly here at Portimao, so I'm not too sure we're going to see many improvements, if any, but we're seeing Beast on an outlap. He's going to try again, but, I mean, we're seeing a couple of drivers retire, lots of drivers in the pit lane, and if they want to get out, they're going to have to get out very soon indeed. They may be just looking at the time of the tyres, saying, well, it's not really worth it, might just save the set of softs. And use them at the end of the race if I need to, but we'll have to see. You can already see the spots on the track, and I do think it's going to be a little bit too wet for another soft run, as that is a car in the middle of the track.
I believe that might be... No, it's not. That's Rapid OG. I think he might have spun heading out at turn 2. Either that or he's had some serious malfunction with some of his sim racing equipment there, which is very unfortunate, but... You got to think, it's not looking grand out there, is it? You can see that little bit of a wet glaze covering the circuit now. As you mentioned, we started to see the dots. Now the glaze is coming through. You can see Beast is taking this a lot easier than he would before. And again, he's going to be so cautious on the traction, heading up over this crest once again. I'm not sure whether this is going to be an improvement, you know. I don't think it will.
I mean, yeah, look at the track. I mean, it's absolutely sodden here. I mean, this is intermediate tyre weather. Intermediate conditions as it is. I mean, 4 seconds down on the Delta. That's the end of qualifying, really. No one's going to be improving, and it's going to be Rapid OG on pole. Shane and Dinart are second and third. But it's a tightly packed grid, particularly down from the likes of Beast all the way through to really Craggy and CJQ. Craggy, not the best qualifying. He'll want more in the race, but he's going to have to fight his way through quite a few challenges here. Yeah,
you mentioned it's very close. You've kind of got that front three leading the way, and then you've got the likes of Beast, Halo, Komi-san leading the train. But again, we saw so many packs break out last night. We saw so many different DRS trains sort of integrate. I feel like we could potentially see that here once again, with maybe a couple of these drivers fighting a little bit too hard for position, not necessarily understanding the great position they're in just by being in the DRS train, by, you know, taking it a little bit easier here and there to make sure they can save a bit more fuel, to really go on a push for the end. I feel like that could be certainly something. But you can already see here, this rain is ridiculous. Even people in the crowd could decide to get their umbrellas out.
Yeah, and we're underneath cover, so yeah, it's not looking good. But that is the end of qualifying. Everyone is finished. I mean, the checker flag is out. We're just waiting on Halo's car to retire, which he does, and we can give you the Tier 2 qualifying results from Portimao, and it is Rapid OG on pole by a whisker, 200ths ahead of Shane. Dinart and Beast 3rd and 4th in a good result for the Scuderia team, but it's a good result as well for Alpha Tauri, 5th and 6th for them, with Mercedes in the form of Monster in 7th. Cristima's Rapid Gopher and the Venezuelan Alfredo in P10, and he leads another 2 Venezuelans with Oliver and Alberto in 11th and 12th. Gladwell Zoom and the championship leader Craggy's in P14. We'll look back to his teammate CJQ in 15th with Bonwar, and Jar Jar in the Williams in P17, with Poloski not really getting himself into the picture. But again, he's only 5 thousandths off the back of the P17 man. So the gaps are small between all of the drivers, and it sets up a good race ahead.
Absolutely, but I do feel like someone is missing there, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it might be one of the Alpine drivers, and I think it might very well be Patty Pat, who's unable to make this race, which is just going to make it a little bit tougher on Collateral Zoom. Right, Darragh, we do not mention what's in the sky, okay? We don't mention how bright it is, we don't mention how happy it makes us. We've just got to ignore it, okay?
Looking rather wet, isn't it? I think
he's summoning the... Are you doing a rain dance as well?
I'm trying to just say, well, it's absolutely pouring it down, because if I say it, it won't happen.
Oh, okay, I like the technique.
See? Yeah, it's reverse psychology.
Okay.
But I mean, it was this sunny about at the start of qualifying, and it was raining 15 minutes later, so anything could happen. And on this game, it often does. So we'll have to see. But, I mean, this is going to look... it's hopefully going to be a very good race. Tier 2, we might see some interesting strategies. Some drivers may be medium hard, some may be soft medium, some may be going for a 2-stop. It could all go off here.
Absolutely. The amount of opportunity for these drivers to make it their own race, do what they want, run their own race here, it's phenomenal. The key thing I will mention, though, is you've got to stay within the DRS of someone. It is absolutely huge around here to be able to get that slipstream, get the DRS, get that toe all the way down into turn 1. It's such a long straight. You can even start picking up a slipstream heading out of turn 14, and it can carry you through with a little bit of dirty air around 15, but still enough to gain you a little bit of extra time. But I do believe we might have a formation lap underway here. Hopefully no shenanigans like yesterday, but we never know, do we, with some of these games features. But you can see, it's majority mediums with only CJ going out on the softs.
And this opens up the strategy, really, doesn't it, to go onto a medium here, because, of course, you can try and go soft, you can maybe stretch it out for a single soft, as we saw yesterday, or you can go to the hards. This does open up the strategy, but CJQ, I think, is going to be the man who's going to be looking to make quite a lot of moves off of the line. Opening a couple of laps, he's really got to focus. He might use quite a bit of the battery just to make these moves on the tyre while they last, because he's clearly doing something different here. We'll have to see if it works for him.
Yeah, and you've got to think as well, with that potential of his teammate there, Craggy surely wouldn't fight him. He'd just let the teammate through on the softer compounded tyre and try and follow him through the pack. Try and just steal 1 or 2 free positions. We're starting to see these cars going absolutely wayward at the minute. Yeah, I think that might be another feature, Darragh. Can we check that one off the list? Feature bingo.
At least we haven't had any drive-throughs for a jump start off of the line for a formation lap. So at least we haven't had that. But don't rule out anything else. I mean,
just to re-advise as well, not PRL's fault, right? PRL have done a fantastic job. Think about yesterday as well. How quickly were we getting back into the session? Got it loaded, got the grid all sorted. They were going racing again in maybe 5-6 minutes. I know other leagues on this game quite often take 10, 15, 20 minutes to sort out a grid, but the staff at PRL were right on it. The drivers, the organisers, Craggies as well, lobby host here as well. I mean, fantastic group of people. It's just a little bit unfortunate that we're starting to see the cars getting even more wayward than before.
Yeah, but let's see then, because the run down to turn 1 is going to be all important here, particularly for like the CJQ.
There's no apex. There's no apex, and he's starting even further back.
And Shane as well. So really, advantage Darragh here in the Red Bull in P3, because he's going to have his car right where he wants it. There's a car at the back. Oh, just about lining up in the right place. That is Donmore. But there are a few disqualifications by lining up wrong, basically, and it's the top 2 who are most affected by it. But let's see. Darragh and Beast, they're going to have seen that and think, oh, we might have a go down towards turn 1. But the 5 red lights are about to come on, and here they are. Rapid OG will be on pole. Shane's alongside him. Who gets the best start here at Portimao? The lights are out, and we are away. It's Rapid OG trying to get off the line, as Darragh is going to try and get his way up into P1, but Shane's going to have the inside line. Not close enough to really make the send, as in behind there, 2, maybe 3 wide. Drivers filing off the track, but there's a driver around. I think it's Alfredo right at the back of the field as they go 2 wide into turn 3. But Rapid OG exactly with the start he wants, and Shane has got away from Darragh and Beast.
Absolutely, and also Komi-san making up a couple of positions with Halo there. Brilliant stuff from both the AlphaTauris. We're going to see a 3 wide moment there with Rapid Gopher being squeezed in the middle of a Red Bull and a Mercedes. This reminds me of something which happened back in Jeddah, and it ends like it does in Jeddah as well. The Haas is round, and it was the Red Bull who just tapped him on the rear slightly. Oliver there is going to have a little bit more extra work to do, but, I mean, we mentioned before that McLaren is potentially working together. He's looking pretty good for him already. P11, P12. They've still got a long way to go in this race.
Yeah, I think that's up 3 for both of them so far, as CJQ might be really trying to get through on his teammate. Asking Craggy, that's a spin for Polowski. Was he tapped there, or did he just lose the rear end?
I think he was tapped. I think he was tapped.
And Oliver not necessarily having the cleanest of opening laps. He's had a contact with a couple of drivers now. Was Monster having problems as well in the Mercedes, dropping down a couple of positions. Craggies is looking up the inside as well into turn 14. Into turn 15, they fly. It's a flat-out right-hander as they run all the way around. But I think they're just going to be... Craggy, actually, just about held off by Monster on the run down towards turn 1. But there are cars all over the road at the moment as we see... Oh, that's just Komi-san. Crew Steamers and Halo fighting it out for P5.
Absolutely. We see Crew Steamers there with a very bold overtake down the inside, making his intentions known nice and early. No matter how much slipstream the AlphaTauris could give, nothing beats a little bit of ERS deployment. He's been able to make that move. But again, I do just want to point out, we've got so many great battles happening all throughout this grid. We've got collateral zoom, feeling the pressure of Monster behind. Again, it's just one of those things. If you're in, like, collateral zoom's position here, you want to try and give a little bit of slipstream to the McLaren behind to defend away from, you know, these McLarens, the championship leader, you don't want them to make any more progress. You want to kind of redistribute the points a little bit more evenly throughout everyone. So you're going to be doing your absolute utmost to try and help Monster. But you help him too much, it creates a position where he's going to try and overtake you. And he might not be as generous. He might not be thinking as tactically as you might be. And he might just try and pull away, which again, there's so many different features which can happen during this race. I mean, I for one, am very, very glad we haven't been interrupted by a VSC for this start. But Shane there with a little slide. As soon as I mention it, there's potential. And this track just reminds you around every corner, no matter how much you want to try and push, there's always a chance for a mistake. As we see Rapid OG and then B setting consecutive fastest laps back to back. But Dinarte is right on the heels of the Ferrari duo. Is he going to be able to make anything work heading up into turn 5?
Well, let's see. I mean, he is really starting to push Beast through the corners, and he'll want to get the move done quickly. Much better line he's going to have through turn 4, but can he capitalise on it with a better exit using the DRS? But of course, Beast also has that advantage from Shane in front of him. And no, the Red Bull sitting in behind at turn 5, just biding his time, just waiting around. No one's really been able to get away like we saw yesterday, really. Top 7, maybe even top 8 if you see Alberto sneak in there in the train. But look at Craggy. Craggy's making a move here on Monster in behind. There's a big gap between Alberto and Craggy's. But where CJQ is failing to make these moves, Craggy's using those mediums very effectively.
Yeah, CJQ's not going to be in a position he wants. Yes, that Mercedes and Red Bull are fighting in front of him, but he's not with his teammate anymore. He doesn't have the luxury to have a little bit of a helping hand here to try and get past these cars, because Craggy's was very opportunistic going into turn 5 and coming out of it as well, making sure he was able to find himself in the best position. As we're starting to see cars losing the rear all over the place, and there we go. Virtual safety car, lap 3. Are we going to see anyone try and brave it with a 2-stop again today?
Maybe. I think it's a little bit early to go for a 2-stop now. I mean, if some brave...
It was the exact same lap before, so there might be one of these drivers who might have saw what the Alfa Romeo did yesterday and really try and spice it up a little bit. But so far, seems like everyone's very much committed to sticking out on this medium compounded tyre, because by the looks of it, you mentioned before with Craggy's, it seems to be working an absolute charm.
Yeah, I think only Pelosi and Collateral, yeah, those two are going to come to the pit lane. They're pit stop down the back of the field. Everyone near the front, staying out, trying this medium tyre for a little bit longer, maybe just committing themselves to a 1-stop, not risking a 2-stop from here. I mean, it is a little bit early. The tyre advantage isn't going to be massive for you, so it's probably worth sticking in out a little bit longer, trying to make the positions on track. But these drivers are getting very close, aren't they, under virtual safety car? Can anybody get the jump, though, when we go green?
You might see a little bit of a George Russell technique, maybe 1 or 2 of the drivers trying to back up the rest of the field and then get a little bit of pace going before they end up getting full throttle, and that would be an ideal restart there for the likes of Dinarte. You can already see the distance he's pulled on Kobe-san, just being in the traction zone, being able to put his foot down as easy as he wants coming out that corner, and of course that has put a little bit more pressure on the likes of Shane with Beast now, within 3 attempts. But we can expect a little bit of Ferrari teamwork here, can't we? We saw it around Catalunya, we saw it around Imola. We know these two work really well together.
Yeah, and I was just noticing there that Halo has been absolutely left for dead under that VSC. He was in that DRS tray, but now no longer 2 seconds away from his teammate. More than that, so he's going to come under pressure from the Aston Martin of Crew Steamers. We'll see how that unfolds. At the front, though, as you mentioned, Rapid OG being trailed by the 2 Ferraris, but they're not in any great rush to get through. They're seemingly all right with sticking in where they are for now. But looking at this here, Crew Steamers on the back of Halo, inside line, turn 1. Easy as you like, but Halo up and under, looking for it. Oh, that got close, and here comes the Williams of Alberto.
Yeah, a very opportunistic move out from Alberto, but it just wasn't quite enough there. He's going to have to wait behind another lap, and now you've got to think Halo's going to get that help in the DRS if he wants to burn a little bit of battery. That inside line is completely open, and he's done it. He's absolutely sent it. He's licked the stamp into T5, and he has a little tap there from the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin decides to lift, trying to let Halo back past, but that just gives Craggy's the opportunity to try and make 3 overtakes in the course of 2 corners. And again, it's very, very close, very, very tight, but he's just able to squeeze himself at the inside there at turn 8. Brilliant stuff there from Craggy's, opportunistic, but you got to say from Alberto, very fair play. He understood he did wrong, tapped the driver in the rear, he let him back past.
Yeah, and it's not very good for Don War. He spun at turn 8, and I think Darragh got through on Rapid OG at turn 10 as well. So very good moves up and down the field, but Craggy's particularly. We saw contact, didn't we, down at turn 7 yesterday, but very, very effective move from the McLaren driver at the moment. He's up into P7, trying to gain forward.
Oh. Hold on. Rapid OG's in P4.
Yeah, no, I think Denart made the move at turn 10, but here comes Rapido G. He's got the DRS, Denart doesn't. Ooh, they get close down into turn 1, and I think it's up and under. Denart back in front. Very, very well played by the Red Bull.
For a moment, I thought he was going to try and put it back up the inside at turn 3 there to get an up and under, and then an up and under on the up and under. It was looking very, very promising, but you got to think here, Rapid, he's in a position, he was leading this race at one point, he's burnt a little bit of battery, but he's still got a little bit more left in the tanks than Dinarte. He's able to deploy it, heading down into turn 5. That'll grab him a position back, but he's just got to be a little bit careful to make sure that himself and the Red Bull, maybe even the likes of Komi-san behind, all work together to try and rotate this DRS, rotate the ERS usage so they can catch back up to Beast in P2, because at the minute, it could look like Ferrari might be able to walk away with it if they're effective with working together. But again, that is a massive if, because we saw what McLaren's were capable of at the start. Their working together seems to have completely disappeared because Crackies have found him up into P6 and CJ is still struggling down in P12 on that soft compound tyre.
Yeah, I mean, the softs really haven't worked on the McLaren of CJQ, have they, whatsoever? Rapid is looking like he's struggling at the moment. Something must have happened there for him to drop down to P4. Still battling away, of course, for P3. But as you mentioned, the two Ferraris really are starting to pull away at the front here, and they can just try and work together. Beast can try and DRS himself in front of Shane. That's exactly what we're seeing. But in behind, Rapid, Denart, just Komi-san, they are nearly 3 wide down in towards turn 1, and Rapid just about tucking in for the racing line down into turn 1 to defend from just Komi-san, who nearly sneaks the nose up the inside, which could have been dangerous, but in the end just sticks behind, waits his turn, and we'll have to see if he can make a move down towards turn 5. But we've already seen some frantic racing so far, and we're going to have to see how these strategies unfold, but a few of these drivers are really going hard off the start. Exactly, and you got to think those drivers which are really trying to push this medium tyre, they could be looking to go over to the hard compound tyre as soon as feasibly possible, because, you know, once that tyre starts to get in a position where it's starting to get used, it's starting to get a little bit worn, they end up falling off the drop-off point. Would it be quicker to swap over to a set of hard tyres when you're, let's say, 20 laps, 25 laps in the race? No. It would be quicker to go to a pair of softs. If these drivers are going to be able to nurture these medium tyres just long enough to be able to dive it back onto a set of softs, they could be in an absolute joyous position come the end of a race. But that is an absolutely massive if. Yeah, and we don't really know where they're going to go. Oh, it's Monster. That's a crash. That's going to be a safety car. There it is. Monster all on his own, I think, out of turn 10, spinning it up on the rears and putting himself into that wall, but that shakes up the race. What do drivers do from here? You'd have thought we'd go medium soft, I would reckon. Are the Ferraris coming in? No. The Ferraris stay out, as does Denart, so this could be interesting. Actually, all of the top 4 stay out. Just Komi-san's the first driver to blink.
And his teammate
Halo,
You could see there he was deliberately trying to hold it up in the pit lane a little bit. He's got to be a bit cautious though, because he did have a Red Bull right up his gearbox. Oh, compiling misery for Halo. Had such a good qualifier, and now he's going to be stuck behind a double stack here as well. Right, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as it could have been. I feel like that was timed pretty well, but we can see the drivers hopping out here on a hard compound tyre. They're going to be looking to try and get it to the end of a race, but you've got to think the hards didn't look like the quickest tyre yesterday by any means, did they? They're not supposed to, but they looked certainly off the pace by a lot more in comparison to what the mediums to the softs compared back to the hard to medium. I'm not sure whether there's an extra compound between the medium and hard tyre. I'm not sure about that one, Darragh. But it certainly felt like it.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if there is, but you need quite a lot of grip around this track. Of course, there are so many long corners that mean that you just kind of need that grip on the track. The tyre just doesn't give you that raw grip that you need to keep the pace up. So it's going to be interesting just to see how the likes of Chris Komi-san and Oliver work their way through maybe on these older medium tyres, but we'll have to see. Halo, you definitely say, will be very, very quick off the start, and Alfredo is going to be absolutely rapid, like a rocket in that Aston Martin on that new set of soft compound tyre. But, I mean, the guys who've gone onto a medium here, the likes of Halo, Rapid, Gopher, you're thinking they're going to go probably medium soft to the end, which could be an interesting strategy because, of course, you just think that the guys at the front are going for a soft. So, I think everyone on a medium now has still got one stop left in their strategy. The guys in the hard are going to the end, and CJQ has gone from probably 2-stopping to now going to the end, and he's the 4th driver on that strategy.
Yeah, it could potentially look very, very good for CJQ, but you've got to take into consideration here, those hard tyres, they're not going to feel great. You might lose a couple of positions to the likes of Rapid Go for Alfredo straight off the start, maybe even Poloski if Poloski's able to get a wonderful start. But again, it's all about preparation of the tyres, isn't it? It's making sure you got your brake bias up, your brake dragging wherever you can to try and keep the inner tyre temperatures up, because as soon as they fall away in that hard compound, they're so difficult to raise back up again. In comparison to the mediums and softs, where you can lose a little bit here and there, it's not the end of the world. They'll come back to you in maybe about a lap and a half. But we can already start seeing here, these drivers out in front. Would it be worth deciding to pit now? Yes, they would fall back to the rear of the grid. But they would be on fresher tyres by about 2 laps by the time the safety car comes in. But again, that's another condition that collateral zoom doesn't necessarily catch him before that final sector. And with the pace he's showing currently at the minute, he's really trying to catch back up to the back of his field as soon as he can to not give the opportunity to these other drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just going to be very interesting just to see how the strategies all play out here, because the Ferraris looked in control, they looked dominant, but now there's that question mark hanging over the likes of Komi-san, the likes of Oliver, because on that hard tyre, they can get to the end. If they can try and stick around these top 6, even fight with them in these opening stages of the restart, because you'd have thought that the medium tyre will start to drop off relatively quickly compared to the hard. If they can just stick around there, they're going to have an entire... they're going to have an entire pit stop advantage over the guys on the softs, and we saw them really, really die at the end of the race last night, so I think it really opens the door for these guys on the hards. Absolutely, door is wide open, but they've got to make the most of this opportunity themselves. They can't rely on the drivers who are running that medium compound to necessarily fall off the pace, because we've seen those mediums, once they end up hitting the drop-off point, they're still very solid pace-wise, roughly about, I want to say, 2 tenths slower than the hard tyres as soon as they hit the drop-off point. But then it's a very, very slow degradation from there until a potential puncture window. But we will be going around here for another lap. And, well, Alfredo's done exactly as I thought. He's dived it back into the pits, and I assume that's going to be a fresh set of hard tyres. Yeah, will be. Right. I'm going to say it now, Darragh. Alfredo to win. Bold, that is very, very bold.
Listen, two lap fresher tyres can make the whole world of difference on this game. That's not me being sarcastic either. It really, really can.
Yeah, but is that much of a difference to get himself ahead of just Komi-san? I think you're jumping the gun a little bit.
No, absolutely not. Sorted.
We'll have to see. I'm still going to back the 2 Ferraris, that they've got this one under control. But it doesn't take much for them maybe to, start fighting, maybe push each other a little bit wide, and all of a sudden Dinart comes through. And even just Komi-san on that hard tyre himself, he may be able to stick it up with these guys and have that pit stop an advantage. But it also depends if we get another safety car in this race.
That is very true.
If we get another safety car, the guys in the hards are probably going to get off that hard, go into a medium. But if we have a safety car, say in, 5 laps time, the guys in the mediums are going to have to think of going to a hard or a soft. They don't have the option of a medium, whereas the guys in the hards have the option of the medium to go back onto.
Absolutely. It's going to be a tough one. But that's a very big if. But we know, as you mentioned last week, cautions breed cautions over in the land of the US of A. And we know in Formula 1 terms, safety cars quite often can cause incidents and more safety cars. So, how will these Ferrari drivers get away? Are they going to play nice with one another? Are they going to communicate? And is Dinart going to get caught out? They're my questions. And I feel like only time will tell. But you can still see him weaving, just trying to get a bit of tyre temp. But Dinart is more than stern waiting. And he's got a brilliant restart there, hasn't he, the Red Bull? He's directly here again and get a little bit of a double slipstream. You can see the Ferraris pulling alongside each other. Swapping positions, not necessarily a tactical defence, with a big swerve over to the right-hand side there from Beast, who's been pushed off, heading down into Turn 1. This is Dinarte's opportunity inside of Turn 3, and he just can't squeeze the Red Bull up there, but you've got to think he might be able to get the better run heading around the outside, but it gives the opportunity for Beast to be able to squeeze, but he's not able to do so. And Rapido G here is also trying to get in the mix here with one of the Ferraris. It's going to be Beast here, falling down the order from P1, potentially down to P4 after that safety car restart. It's as good as you could do from Ferrari, given the position you're in, but you've got to start thinking, could Shane have done a little bit more to help defend with his teammate?
I mean, possibly so, but you've also got to remember that it does get very tight down at Turn 1, and the safety car restart wasn't perfect, but they're still 1-3. It's still a recoverable position. I noticed as well that just Komi-san had an awful restart, dropped quite a long way back. I think there may have been contact with Oliver. because they dropped a couple of seconds back off the train, but Oliver's now back inside that 1 second window of Crew Steamers and gaining pretty fast. That hard tyre working quite nicely off this restart, and it's warmed up quite well. So nearly a third of the way through this race. We're still in the early days of this event, but Shane trying now to defend from Darragh, who has worked his way up very methodically in this race from 4th up to 2nd, and there's nothing to rule him out going for the lead very shortly here.
Absolutely. I feel like it might just be a bit more of a waiting game, but he can't wait forever, as we see Rapid OG here as well, making a move down the inside, helping himself up into P3, but again, he's just got pinched at the apex. We saw it a lot yesterday, didn't we, where drivers try and put it down the inside and realise all of a sudden how tight the corner is, and okay, maybe I should back out here to avoid contact, and ends up resulting in backing out. But Craggy's as well has fallen out of the DRS, and we've got a yellow flag in Sector 1 there. I believe that's for Don Warham, the Williams Vera of Jar Jar.
Yeah, oh, that's an inside line. That is going to be CJQ making the move on just Komi-san. Oh, that was a very late send. Nearly went into the back of Alberto there, but just about got it stopped into turn 5, and he's now up into P9. The two McLarens have really worked their way forward. 5th and 9th now for the two boys in Papaya. We'll have to see if they can get even further up the grid. But look at Oliver now trying to challenge Crew Steamers, who is close to Craggy's, but Craggy's has dropped quite a long way back from Rapid OG. And Oliver, he really is keen to get these moves done, but he's got to be careful because Alberto and CJQ are going to be there if he makes any mistakes.
Absolutely. It's going to be one just finding a little bit of patience. He can afford maybe 1 or 2 corners here to let him go through, use the DRS, get the move done down into turn 1. As I believe CJQ there has been caught up in an instant. He's round. Oh dear. You mentioned McLaren's doing good. You mentioned Papaya Boys making their moves. Darragh, these jinxes are unbelievable, my friend.
But let's see. Oliver trying to make a move down into turn 1. They get close here for the for P3, but they're still fighting in behind. Oliver is through on Crew Steamers. Poloski is through on Rapid Gopher, and these two are on fresh medium tyres. Poloski going a little bit wide though at turn 1. That's not going to help him out on a warnings front. Just Komi-san, Alfredo, Alberto, Halo, Glateral, Zoom. They're all in that hunt as well as we go down into turn 5 with the DRS in arch close. Not quite close enough. Oh, that was deep from Shane. And the Rebel nearly had a line up the inside, but not quite. They're really fighting on these cross-strategy battles.
Yeah, they're more than happy to swing punches, aren't they? They're not holding anything back at this point. Crew Steamers especially being caught out there by Oliver, and now Oliver's looking to try and add another driver to the hit list, another one to the repertoire to be able to get under his belt and make sure he ends up finishing above him, dependent on another safety car. But Oliver here, you've got to say, he's shown a tremendous amount of pace here on these hard compound tyres. I'm very impressed by the way he's been able to fire him up and get him in an operating window to really start challenging these medium tyres. And you've got to think, with each lap which goes by, Oliver's just going to get quicker and quicker while these mediums are going to get slower and slower. He might even be able to catch back up to the DRS of Rapid OG.
Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, Oliver, he's getting close to Craggy. Craggy with a wide line through the final corner. I mean, he's lost a 10th purely through that corner alone, which is flat out here. Further up, though, I think that's Rapid OG going for RRL Beast, and he's going to get through down into turn 1 quite easily. He's got the inside line, controlled it. Beast gives him a love tap as they make their way through the apex, but it's Rapid now up into the podium positions. These top 4 really are in a bit of a race on their own at the moment. Oliver's trying to close that gap now up in P5, but really watch out for him. Craggy's and Crew Steamers as well are in there, but Poloski and Komi-san on different strategies as well, but they're fighting for the lead here, Josh.
Another little opportunity there, trying to get it down the inside, but just a little bit too far away once again for Dinata. He's just going to have to take it a little bit easier, I think. I think he's got to settle down, because the more he fights, the closer Rapid OG is going to get brought into this. And the more these top 4 fight, the more opportunity the likes of Oliver, the likes of Komi-san, the likes of Poloski could all have to try and manage, you know, their tyres a little bit longer, just to make sure towards the end of the stint they're in a slightly better position. They'd have to catch up by 20 seconds at this point. It's looking like a very tall task for these front 4, but opportunities galore. If a safety car comes out for these 4, they'll be able to get a cheaper pit stop. Yes, it'll put them back towards the rear of the grid because of how compact this entire field is at the minute. But you can already start seeing, once again, they're starting to pull out just that little bit more. Oliver as well, he's doing a great job being able to hold on to the back, and we see so many red lights flashing heading down this main straight, just indicating how much battery all these drivers are using. They're leaving nothing in the reserves at the minute, Darragh.
Yeah, absolutely nothing is being left on the table. Be so close on the back of Rapid, but nothing here. Rapid's got to be careful. He might be out of the DRS. In fact, we might have just snuck back in once again, but he's running a very, very... he's playing a dangerous game here because he's right on the on the window to not have DRS, which would really quite harm his race. Polowski here on Crew Stevens up into P7, the Mercedes driver, working his way nicely through the field on those fresher medium tyres as Halo and Alfredo are going side by side as well. There's a spin at the back, it's Donwar. He's not had a fun evening at all. Alberto, 3-second time penalty as well. Some drivers, it's not going well. You can see the time penalties on the left-hand, or on the right-hand side of the tower.
There you go.
But some other drivers, I mean, the strategies are just being kept alive here. I mean, soft tyres, you're thinking in the next few laps for the top 4, but then that's just going to leave Oliver a clean track to go for however fast he likes.
Absolutely, and you know it's one of those risks, isn't it? Oliver didn't necessarily have the greatest qualifying, but he certainly got the pace on that hard compound tyre. That's someone who's practiced a little bit of a race stint instead of necessarily hopping straight into a time trial. As you can see here, he's within the DRS now of Beast, with Beast's red light still flashing, alluding he's going to be down on power, he's down on battery, he won't be able to have that little bit of energy deployment where he needs it as well. A lot which goes into this, but I'm sure Oliver is just going to be watching and waiting his time, trying to find an opportunity to use a little bit of DRS. We've got some Rapidos Racing back here with likes of Crew Steamers, Omi-san, Polowski and Rapid Gopher as well, with Komi-san hopping back up there into P8. Are these medium tyres already starting to phase themselves out of this race?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Oh, Denart and Shane, I think they've swapped positions at the front of the field. Shane maybe getting up in front, but here we see Crew Steamers and Polowski fighting out. Polowski on the inside as they run through turn 5, and there's just Komi-san coming through as well. Don Moore's retired in the pit lane, so that won't cause any kind of safety car. But look at these two fighting side by side. Through turn 7 they come. No contact between them, but wide from the AlphaTauri. It's going to be Crew Steamers banging his way up the inside. And look at Rapid Gopher here. He's got a much better run. They're 3 wide as they rise over the crest, and Rapid Gopher takes advantage. Double overtake for him, but it's also an overtake up the front for Rapid. He's up into P2.
Absolutely. Brilliant stuff there from the midfield, but you can see Dinarte, he's really not happy about losing that position to Shane, is he? He wants a little bit of vengeance here. Rapidoji snuck his way through, as you mentioned, up into P2, but you got to think here, Dinarte is going to use this opportunity to recharge the battery and re-go on the offensive once again, depending on how long he really wants to stretch his medium stint. But you can already see these drivers have committed 16 laps to it. It's got to that awkward part of a race, as I sort of alluded to. Would it be quicker to go to soft here and nurture him to the end of a race? I'm starting to think so. But again, there's a reason I'm not driving. There's a reason I'm not engineering. It's because I just don't know as much. But you can see Komi-san falling down the order once again. I believe he might have got caught up in a little incident there, heading down into turn 1. Again, so many different battles breaking out across this entire field. It's absolutely fantastic to watch as we see Rapid Gopher still having this battle with the likes of Crew Steamers, Halo, Alfredo. It's looking fantastic for this midfield battle at the minute.
Yeah, it's really hotting up here. Oh, as we see maybe an inside line from a couple of drivers, but that is Alfredo looking to make a move on SSR Halo here, but he's not going to be able to pull it off. We are now just about halfway through this race. 16.5 gone, 16.5 to go, and we are still no closer to finding out who's going to win this race.
Oh.
Oliver is going to take the lead very shortly, but he's going to have quite a lot of work to do in the second half of this race to keep the drivers behind. But these guys in the mediums, they are absolutely all over the road, struggling for grip as that's Beast going for a double overtake. Is that a double move from Beast there? I'm not too sure. Up the inside, he's picked off 1, he's picked off 2 of the Red Bull cars, and he's back up into P3. What a move if that was a double overtake. Denart's trying to come back at his teammate, who doesn't seem to be playing too much ball at the moment. But this is absolutely crazy racing at the front of the field.
Absolutely. You see the ERS lights flashing once again. All these drivers are leaving everything on the table during this first stint. But you can see Oliver using that little bit of added traction he's got from that hard compound tyre to get the move done. And he also gives a little bit of an opportunity for Dinarte there to try and squeeze one back at the inside. But it wasn't quite there, as we've got another yellow flag there in Sector 1. Apparently it's saying that Dinarte ended up getting spun round there. Voodoo.
Yeah.
Honestly.
What happened there?
Someone's got a magic cloak to make it invisible, because I didn't see that one in the slightest. But, again, so many great battles. It's all very close here in the field, isn't it?
It's just gutting there for Denart, because he's now, what, 4 or 5 seconds off the back of the lead of this race, where he wanted to be right in it as we come up to the pit stops. Maybe this, maybe next lap for some of these guys to bit off the mediums, get onto a soft tyre. But Rapid OG and Shane, they aren't giving it up here before they come into the pit lane, because you always want to be first going in to pit road, because of course it gives you that little bit of an advantage. Coming out of the pit stop, you can try and gain a little bit away on the outlap, and it all compounds to just a better situation in the race. But look at Oliver, he is really keen, even though those hards aren't necessarily fresh. The medium's just dropping off a cliff at the moment as... Oh, I spoke too soon. Oliver having a moment once again. Turn 14 this time as we see... Oh, no, he thought about it there, Shane. He really did think about it, but Beast is going to be the driver coming in. But he speeds in the pit lane.
Oh, no. It's more misery, isn't it? I thought as a Ferrari fan it couldn't get much worse, but it's all been added to. A 5-second penalty there for speeding in the pit lane. But he does go onto a set of soft compound tyres, indicating the rest of these drivers, and also his teammate might be looking to match that strategy. Stretching it out another lap here. We saw how powerful the undercut was yesterday. There's a potential for Beast to be able to get the jump on Shane here.
Yeah, but let's see. I mean, I think a massive undercut is incoming for Beast, and that is Crew Steamers. Just his rear end coming all over the road, doesn't know where he wants to be. And Alfredo is going to overtake his teammate down into turn 5, and Rapid Gopher might be sniffing around for a move himself in the next few corners. But 14.5 laps to go. Soft tyres, they really are going to start to become an option for these guys. Really, anybody in the field could go onto a soft tyre if they wanted to. Rapid Gopher very close on Crew Steamers. But I think we might see a few of these drivers stay out. You likes of Alfredo, you likes of Oliver. I can't see why Oliver would come in here because he's going to have a pit stop lead. All he needs to do, and I say all he needs to do, but what he needs to do is hold a pit stop advantage over at 13, 14 laps.
Yeah, and it's certainly doable. It's very feasible for Oliver to do this. Again, we mentioned it. I mean, if you look at the next closest driver for a comparison, it would be Alfredo with those 2-lap fresher tyres in P7. It's not a massive time difference, but you've got to think, yes, Oliver's tyres are going to wear away a little bit quicker, but, I mean, realistically, it's not going to be that much. All he's going to have to do is make sure he keeps and build, like, he just maintains the gap. That's all he's got to do. He doesn't have to push, he doesn't have to exert himself, he doesn't have to overuse his ERS, he certainly doesn't need to overdrive the car. He's just got to trust it. He's just got to focus on the process and just work himself even further into this Grand Prix, because as it goes, it's going to keep getting hotter and hotter with these soft compound runners charging him down towards the end of this race.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because Rapid OG, of course, is going to have that disadvantage. But those fresh tyres, they're going to work an absolute treat on his car. But look at this, Darragh on the back of Craggy's as they run their way through turn 4. He's going to have the DRS towards turn 5, but can he do anything with it? He's going to try and make the move for P11. It'd be P3 on this soft compounded tyre, and he gets to the inside. He controls the line. He controls the corner. Craggy's trying to come around the outside there, but Darragh says no, and he shuts the door off. P11 for the Red Bull driver. But these guys on the softs, they're going to be eating time out of Rapid OG and Oliver if they don't fight, which they are doing at the moment. So they've got to keep it nice and clean. But look at the gap that Beast pulled on Shane, 2 seconds in a lap.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely insane. But Rapid OG dives into the pits. Expect him to come out towards the rear of his train, maybe with the likes of Crew Steamers, but he will have that lap fresher tyre. And as we mentioned, a little bit of a mix of strategies. Beast, Shane, Donate, Craggy's, whoever else decides to try and come through this hard medium field up towards the front now, they're going to have a work cut out for them because they won't be able to just rely on the DRS. They're going to need to make the moves a little bit quicker. With only 12 laps remaining in this race, surely you would think they would be looking to try and get maybe alternative moves heading into turn 7 and 8. It's been shown today it's been able to be done. We've seen a freeway overtake heading through turn 9, the fast sweeping left-hander heading up into turn 10 Portimao. You know, you've got to start thinking, if you're the likes of Beast, Shane, where do you feel the most comfortable? Where do you feel the most confident trying to get these overtakes sorted where drivers won't necessarily expect it?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the undercut there, over 3.5 seconds from Shane on Rapid. I mean, it's absolutely crazy levels of undercut. And when you think that Shane was behind Rapid when he came into the pit lane, it's well over 4 seconds of an undercut on the one single lap. But that older tyre, I mean, especially when we get to the final 3, 4, 5 laps, Beast's tyres are going to feel a lot worse than Rapid OG's here. So keep that in the back of your mind. But as well, they're in P8, 9 and 10. They have got 7 drivers to overtake if they want to win this race. Because I can't see, I mean, maybe Pelosi and Halo come into the pit lane. I can't see these hard runners coming in. Because I don't see why. There's a spin from Rapid Gopher as well. But this is going to be really interesting to see how these guys get through the hard runners. Beast, Shane, they're not that far off Collateral Zoom Alberto, but they're going to have to make very light work of them because they can't afford to be caught up here.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking about 16 seconds off the back of a leader there. They've got an awful lot of work to do with only 11 laps remaining, but if we've seen anything here at PRL, we know the impossible can quite often be made possible. So I wouldn't rule it out too far just yet as we see Alfredo catching back up to Poloski there. Told you he was a favourite to win. You doubted. Never doubt the two lap tyre difference, mate. I'm telling you. It's guaranteed to work. Obviously, he decided to put a little bit later on that medium compound tyre. Find himself P for it at the moment. Again, one of those drivers using his ERS. Maybe not as effectively as he would like, but he's had to use it to keep within the DRS because it is so prominent around here. But with the likes of Poloski here on that medium compound tyre, it's going to be difficult to get to the end for him. Maybe risking a puncture as well, but he's certainly doing his absolute darn best to try and keep it up there, isn't he?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think these closing 11 laps are really going to be indicative of this race and indicative of the season, really gaining some points for some of these guys. I mean, depending on what some of the skills are, I mean, we know that there's been lots of contact in this race. I mean, the provisional result may not be final. We might see some changes overall. But, I mean, you're seeing Shane here catching up to the likes of Zoom, Alberto, Halo, this train of cars. But then it's quite a big gap up to Oliver here. So, you know, they've got to make light work as Clash will Zoom just seem to pull out of the way there of Shane, not looking to fight it too hard. But, I mean, Oliver is going to be begging these guys to fight them as hard as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a great chance to go on and win this race, but with 10 laps remaining, we're seeing that time difference come down further and further. You can just see how late Shane's taking it into the braking zone. He's got so much more confidence on his fresh set of soft tyres. In comparison to the drivers on the used old hard compound tyre, they just don't have enough grip. They're not being, you know, in a comparable window. Shane thought about a move up the inside there, heading through turn 8, but decided to back out there, thinking it might not be the best decision. It might be a little bit too risky, because the last thing one of these Ferrari driver wants is to clip the front wing, lose an end plate, pick up a little bit of damage here or there, because around a circle like this, it's a ridiculous amount of time you're looking at losing.
Oh, inside line is this? No, not quite for Shane. I thought he was going to try and dive it up the inside of turn 13, but thinks better of it as they run into the penultimate corner at 14. But, I mean, look at the grip he's got compared to the Williams of Alberto as they emerge into turn 15. He's got the inside line, got the move done up into P6, and now he's got 4 more to negotiate. Pit lane time for Poloski. I mentioned that on the medium he might come into the pit lane, and indeed he has. We're seeing Beast try and come through and Alberto as well, and this is the action stage of the race. There are 10 laps to go now. 10 more laps of racing action here at Portimao to decide which strategy was the best to do. Was it to go onto the hard early on and get it to the end, or was it to wait out on the medium and stick it in a soft right at the end of the race to fly through the field?
I do just want to point out as well, Oliver seems to be pulling away from Alfredo. I'm not sure if you noticed that. It was 8 seconds 2 laps ago. Now it's up to 9.3. He's certainly putting the hammer down, understanding the position he's in, understanding the vulnerabilities, because as soon as Shane and Beast end up getting through this pack and get a little bit more clean air, they're looking to go flying up to the back of Oliver's car, and realistically could maybe even catch him in maybe 3-4 laps, depending on how much life those soft tyres have got in them, depending on how much they've been forced to go offline to try and make moves work. Depends on how much marbles we've got on the tyres. There's a lot of variables for these Ferrari drivers, but the one thing they're looking at doing is getting these moves done ASAP.
Yeah, inside line maybe. Oh, no, defensive move, I think, there from just Komi-san, who makes sure that the Ferrari of Shane can't find a way through. Shane got a podium last week in Spain, hoping to make it 2 on the trot. Around the outside at turn 14, special move there from the Ferrari of Shane. Really just absolutely hooked the car up and drove it all the way clean around the outside of the AlphaTauri. And now he's got a chance at trying to put his way up into P2 here with the DRS assistance. Maybe not down at turn 1, but at turn 5 definitely. But Komi-san, he's not giving this one up here. Maybe looking for an inside, no, sticking him behind, waiting, knowing that this isn't his race at the moment. But if these soft tyres start to drop off quickly, I mean, this still could be the battle for the podium positions.
Absolutely, and there we go. We've seen it there. Komi-san just decided to try and put it up the inside. You can see there Shane really trying to push Alfredo through the corner, trying to find any sort of time possible on the likes here, as we see once again Komi-san just showing us he's got that race IQ, hasn't he? He knows that if he just tucks in behind the Ferrari's going to have to make a move on Alfredo. And Alfredo there just getting swamped just a little bit, end up getting pushed off the track there, but Komi-san has decided to pull over to the side to let him go. But Komi-san picked up that 3-second time penalty, and we're seeing here all sorts of squabbling. Oh dear.
No, I was going to mention here that I thought that just Komi-san and Rapid had come together on the run up to turn 7 because they lost quite a bit of time, and I think that there was maybe an illegal overtake there somewhere, which is why we saw, I think it was, whoever it was, maybe Clantal Zoom trying to let the car through. Either way, they both had a mare. Beast had come down the inside at turn 5. They were 3 wide on the apex, and it was very, very tight, and I think it was just a bit of a messy sector from everyone concerned there. I'd be interested just to try and see that one again later, just to see what happened. But either way, Shane is up to P2. Beast is trailing him at the moment, and Alberto has been left in the dust. Alfredo, nearly a namesake, just in behind as well. But look at that, Craggies. He's also on fresher soft tyres. He's looking for a podium. Of course, he started right near the back of the field. I think it was down in maybe P12 or P14, somewhere like that. But he could be looking at a podium position here.
Yeah, he certainly drove the wheels off that Pike car, hasn't he? He's been looking to try and make moves any which way possible. But again, Dinarte, you got to feel bad for him having that instant, losing a little bit of time, but he's still right in this battle to try and pick up a podium, depending on how well he's going to be able to sort of navigate through the likes of Collateral Zoom. And of course, Crag is in front of him, who's going to be the driver he's looking to try and beat the most out of anyone on this grid. But realistically, sharing the same bit of road, it's got to give Dinarte a little bit of confidence heading into this. But you got to think, Crag, he's done a phenomenal job so far, hasn't he? And he looks to be adding to his repertoire of brilliant moves throughout this race on the likes of Alberto and Alfredo in front.
I mean, the gaps have really opened up, haven't they, over this phase? As we see Joe Comey-san, those tyres are not what he wants on the car. He's going to drop back to P13 here. But, I mean, Oliver, he's still in the lead by 8 seconds. Comey-san, that is a very unfair 10-second time penalty. I mean, he's just gone off the track and tried to recover. But either way, he may be able to get that one removed if he doesn't come into the pit lane. But Oliver is still holding an 8-second lead here. There are 6.5 laps to go. And as Beast gets through on his teammate Shane, I mean, that hard tyre looks like it's holding up pretty well at the moment. Watch out for the likes of Craggy to get through and Alfredo here for P4. But then you don't really know where to look for the podium. I mean, is Oliver just going to be able to hold them off here as the softs start to die away?
I'm not too sure. And then you've got that awkward scenario of, do you let the Ferrari drivers race if they know they're not going to be able to catch Oliver? Because they're catching by about a second a lap, maybe slightly over, maybe 1.3 seconds per lap onto Oliver as just Comey-san there retires in the pit lane after a couple unfortunate penalties for him, some of which I don't necessarily agree with. But again, do Ferrari let them battle? Do they want to battle each other? Will they return positions? Will Shane pick up P2? As long as can go on. And we know when there's a little bit of indecisiveness within a team, that's quite often when mistakes creep in. That's when they can make contact with one another. That's when it can get very tense.
Yeah, and they really won't want anything to go majorly awry between them in these closing stages, with quite a lot of points in their back pocket at the moment. But look at Craggy's here. He is all the way pushing Oliver Pitts. Wow.
Was he in puncture territory? Did he push the car a bit too hard?
Left? No. Maybe he was in puncture territory, but he's gone on to a medium. I don't know what's gone on here for Oliver. Maybe... Did he put himself in AI, possibly?
Maybe, but you got to think...
He's also very slow getting out of the box there.
Yeah, but
that's disaster for him. He's out of the race for the win.
Absolutely, and now pressure's on for Alfredo to keep hold of Crackies and really hope that soft tyre falls off here. I mean, you can just see that soft tyre's got so much more traction rising up there to turn 4. It's almost a joke.
Yeah, I'm just amazed that Oliver's coming to the pit lane. That must have been an AI making him come in, because I cannot see why he'd have picked for a medium of anything else. And he was sat in that pit box for a while. He didn't move. So I really don't know what has gone on there for the Red Bull driver. But meanwhile, his teammate Denart, he's trying to make a move here on Alfredo. Don't count him out for a podium. He obviously had that spin that we missed down at turn 3, which dropped him back. But he still might be able to pick up a P3 in this race. Ferrari look like they have this under control for now. But it only takes one slight mistake and they come together for them to lose it.
Absolutely, and that'll be worst case scenario. If not, maybe one of them half spins. You're looking at maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds being lost, and that can give an opportunity, and maybe a slight sniff for the likes of Craggies, Dinarte, maybe even Alfredo, to get up there and try and battle for the top 2 positions. So Ferrari just need to keep it steady, keep it even, and just make sure they're able to keep running the way they want to run. Make sure they don't get too close to one another. Maybe trade a little bit of DRS just to keep that 7-second buffer in case another one of them picks up more penalties, because we do know Beast has a penalty already to his name and it's 8 seconds worth, so surely you would think, for Ferrari's sake, they would swap positions, Shane would back up a little bit and try and hold Crackies up for the last couple laps here.
See how this all unfolds. I mean, Beast with that 8 seconds worth of time penalties. it's tight, isn't it? Really, between himself and Craggy's. Denart's going to be hoping to get into the DRS window with Craggy's as well. But I mean, this could be the battle for P2 between the McLaren and the Red Bull, but they obviously can't fight too hard because they'll lose that gap to the Ferrari. But as it is, Halo and Polowski fighting down at turn 5, and Halo is through. Oliver is getting to the back of this pack, and if the soft tyres start to absolutely fall off the cars, he might be able to run his way up a few more positions still, but nowhere near the podium, of course. But I mean, this race is really, it's just bounced around, doesn't it? It's like it's had a tidal effect. It's gone in for Ferrari, then it came out again on the strategy, now it's back in again, and they are looking like they may be able to pull off at least a win, if not a 1-2. But Craggy is eking into that time. It's now 7.2.
It's not looking the best, is it, for Beast to be able to hold on to that P2? But you never know. They could potentially find something here. But you can already see Beast dropping out of DRS range. Shane's decided to put on maybe 1 or 2 of the afterburners, use a little bit of turbo, and get himself slightly further up the road. Which, yes, it'll secure him a win, but at the same time, could have been a 1-2 for Ferrari if they just used their, a little bit more teamwork here and there. You think. Couple opportunities they had to defend together as well, not necessarily taken to the most effective way. There's a lot to be lost here for Beast, very little to be lost for Shane. Shane comfortably within the track limits on the most part, doesn't have a time penalty. It's unfortunate for Beast, but at the same time, it's just one of those things, isn't it? How much did he gain by leaving the track? You don't know. I know one of them was a 3-second time penalty for leaving the track. Again, can be very harsh, but his teammates being able to keep it in the track. Can't let a punishment go free.
8 second. I mean, was the other one speeding in the pit lane?
Speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, so it's an unforced error. It's just the easiest cop in the book, really, that the game makes on you. I mean, if you're speeding, you're speeding. People often say, like, I was going, 49 or whatever, but that's just a little bit of an error with what it reads at the top of your screen, and you were actually, when you crossed that line, going level 2, if not just over the speed limit. So it is unfortunate, but normally it's it's a fair cop, a bit like an offside in FIFA. But then again, that can be broken. But there's lots of game features on all of EA's games, and this is no exception. Oliver, let's have a look at this. Hold up. Oh, there is some rain.
That's
rain.
I
did think, I genuinely was going to say, it has got darker. Could we see any rain? And in fact, we are going to see some precipitation. I'm just saying here, Oliver, in 2 laps' time, might find himself gaining about 8 seconds a lap on everybody else.
I can't believe we did the opposite. We didn't compliment it. We didn't say it was nice. We didn't say it was sunny. And it still decides to rain for us. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
If we didn't have that safety car, then my little it looks like it's going to rain would have worked, because I don't think we would have had enough time, or it would have started on the final laps. But either way, this is really throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. I think Darragh, with that penalty, out of contention for P2 at least, and probably P3, because Craggy's he's not catching to Craggy's, and Craggy's would need to pick up a penalty of his own. So at the moment, it's looking very, very good for the championship leader to pick up another podium this season. But as it does start to rain, the track got very wet very quickly in qualifying, and on these very, very old tyres that we see from all of the top 8, if you think about in terms of wear, I mean, this rain could really, really affect them.
Absolutely. They'll be skating around like Bambi on ice, bless them. But hopefully, for their sakes, we're going to be able to keep it pointing in the right direction. The collateral zoom there hopping up into P6 there with one of the drivers decided to dive into the pits. We've got Alberto, Halo, Oliver all diving into the pits. No way are they going on intermediates. No way.
They are. There's your answer. I'm amazed that Oliver's gone into intermediates. I'm absolutely amazed. He was the driver in prime position. He had the freshest tyres on that car. They would have had the least amount of wear. You're never going to make up a pit stop time. In 2 laps.
I don't want to say it.
Dry to wet conditions. But this is just going to be like skating on ice. We might see a couple of punctures from the guys in the hards here. Collateral Zoom and Alfredo. Those tyres are absolutely dead. But, I mean, Alberto's got to make up 20 seconds to Polowski in 2 laps. I mean, if he can do it, fair play. But that is a massive order.
I don't want to say it, and I might live to regret my words in just about a lap's time here, but it does feel like a little bit of a fumble there from the intermediate guys, doesn't it?
Look, I mean, it does look incredibly wet on the track, and Alberto is munching time out of Polowski. But he needs to gain 10 seconds a lap here. I mean, we were looking at the soft tyres, albeit fresh soft tyres, losing about 6. So, we might see quite a big gain, but not that big, surely. Shane's doing very well at the moment. Pulled that gap out to his teammate to 3.4 seconds. Craggy still inside that 8-second window. Alfredo currently in P5. DRS is disabled, as you can see. Shane, that is not the line at turn 3, but he's on the final lap. This is just a case of bringing it home.
Absolutely. You've got to point in the right direction, making sure you're gentle on the power and not having any whoopsie-daisy moments. We know Shane has showed his absolute tremendous pace here, but now he's got to show a different element of his driving technique, his car control, his ability to keep it calm under pressure. As you see, both of Ferraris having a slight slide to coming out of 5. I can almost guarantee that'll be the same for every single driver on this slick compound tyre. And then again, you got to think... potential for track limit extensions rises up just a little bit, given they're still on the slick tyres. They will be slightly more lenient because it is now wet, but they're still going to be very difficult to try and keep it within the track.
Yeah, one more sector to go here. I feel like I'm watching Le Mans from last year, of course, when it just started to rain on one part of the track, and it absolutely poured. Everyone went off. But the difference here is people in PRL, they're able to keep it on the track. And Shane, coming into the final few corners now, I mean... it looked good for him at the start of the race. The safety car came out. There were question marks over whether that strategy would work for him. But even with the wet conditions, these soft tyres have held on just about enough as he comes through the final acceleration zone. The final corner becomes a little bit trickier when there's this much water on the track. But Shane, he's going to negotiate it perfectly. And the Ferrari driver, after a podium, after a great recovery last week, wins in Portugal. Fantastic result for him. Beast crosses the line second. But it will be PLR Craggy's, the championship leader, who takes another podium. P2 here in Portimao, Beast P3, and Darragh will come home in P4. I'm looking at the time gain here from Alberto, Halo, and Oliver. And to their credit, they will have gained about 16 seconds in 2 laps to collateral zoom, but it won't be enough as they all file across the line. But full credit to Shane and the Ferrari drivers, 1st and 3rd for them. Oliver's just about going to cross the line side by side with Halo, but picks up 2 positions with penalties. But what a race that was, Josh. And we've had some fantastic races in PRL so far this season.
Absolutely. We've been sport for choice with the quality of racing. These drivers, they're so consistent as well. They're always there and thereabouts, thinking about Shane, thinking about Craggy. I mean, it's fantastic to see. There's been some certainly bold strategy calls by a lot of these drivers here today, but you can definitely see the drivers, they should be more than happy with themselves because all of them, when this wet condition came out, they was all able to keep it pointing the same way. That's better than the vast majority of people who end up playing the game, such as myself and, dare I say, maybe even you, Darragh.
Well, I need to... I've been told by a couple of people that I need to try and get myself into Creator Series so that I can stop being bantered around by not being very good on track. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Either way, well, that's a story for another day. We'll hopefully get to talk to the top 3 here. I mean, I'd love to hear what the guys were thinking in the final stages of that race, particularly the top 3 who were just skating on those old soft... I mean, they would have been skating in the dry. But the track got to intermediate conditions almost instantly. I think if there was one more lap of wet running, the intermediate tyre was the correct choice. But in the end, just about not the right one. Because the guys, I'd said they had to gain 20 seconds and they gained about 17. So full credit to them. But there is your race winner. The man driving for Ferrari. It's a fantastic result for the Scuderia. I mean, we were talking about them maybe getting a 1-2, and even with the penalty, it's disappointing that they couldn't carry it out, but still, 1-3, fantastic for them.
Yeah, very, very good for the Ferrari. It's more of a question of what could have been for them. Will they regret not being able to secure this 1-2 when it gets deeper into the season? But surely the thing you got to think about is carrying this momentum forward onto the tracks where, you know, a little bit of teamwork, a little bit of, you know, working together can really go a long distance and could also put a little bit of dampener on Craggy, because you saw there CJ not having the best result, got caught up in a little incident, got caught up with tyre choices as well. Wasn't the most solid race from his partner in the McLaren output, but we know CJ is so capable of holding it up there with these 3 and definitely applying the pressure to the Ferrari duo as well.
Yeah, but fantastic result in the end from all of these drivers, and great win for Shane. Craggy second, Beast there, and we've got Darragh, Alfredo, and Cruz Stevens in the top 6. Poloski came home 7th in collateral zoom in P8, with Oliver, the first driver, trying that intermediate in P9. Alberto came home in P10. Halo and Rapid go for just missing out on that top 10 finish with Jar Jar and the Williams nearly a lap down by the end. CJQ and CJQ was a lap down, and then we had Rapid, Sem, and a couple of other drivers who didn't quite make the flag. But I think, Josh, we've got a few drivers in the interview room. I think we can try and hop across there. There's a couple of Ferrari drivers in there, so I'm excited to talk to them.
Absolutely. Let's get these interviews cracking, man. Right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. I'll tell you what. Do we want to do a big group interview?
Whatever you want to do.
Could do that.
Absolutely. Sure. Can do. Let's start at the end. The rain. How did you guys feel about that one? Let's start with Craggy first. Why not?
It spiced it up anyway. The lack of any grip on any of the corners going into the last lap of the race. So, yeah, it was rather interesting.
Yep. Beast?
The rain kind of probably screwed up a lot of people for the last lap. With me and Shane being on the same strat, it kind of got to a point where our tires were dead shot at the end. I was already about within the 60% range within the last 2 laps there, and with how bad the tires were, I was pretty much all over the place, so it kind of was a bit interesting, so to say.
Yep. And Shane, how did you find that little bit of water?
Yeah, we were expecting it. I was expecting it a little earlier, but then it got to a stage where it was saying 10-15 minutes, and we had about, I suppose, 10 laps left, and I was like, we might get away with it. But I had a feeling it was the DRS was disabled was going to happen after I crossed the start finish, which it did. But I think at that stage, where I had a little bit of a buffer to the guys with penalties, and I think it was 9 seconds to Craigie, and I think I didn't want to take any risks at that stage. I'd taken my risks earlier on in the race, so it was just trying to bring it home in one piece and don't end up pointing the wrong direction. So I was surprised as well with Oliver on the hards pitting so early. I thought he was going to push it when the rain came, but he for whatever reason, his tyres weren't getting them to the end, so he decided to box for mediums. But yeah, it was good.
I mean, we were surprised ourselves the fact that Oliver had come in, because then, of course, he came in for intermediate, so it seemed like he was waiting for that point anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, for yourself, on those softs, I mean, they must have been very worn as well at the end. I mean, we saw you as well hanging at turn 3, turn 5. You were hanging on really well.
The softs, like the hards are an awful tyre around here. They're actually two grades. They're the C0 tyre, and the mediums are C2, and the softs are C3. So I was never using the hards at any stage. They're awful. So I'd gone with the softer tyre option, and I kept 2 fresh softs just in case I needed a second set towards the end, or if I needed a 2-stop. So I had a fresh set of softs if we needed it, but it was obviously the intermediates that were nearly being called into action. But it was surprising that he stopped on hards at that safety car, which should have gotten to the end. He should have been able to get to the end, but for whatever reason. Because I think we would have struggled with our tyres going off. We would have struggled. I think he was like 8 seconds ahead of us. And we were trying to use that DRS and share the DRS lap by lap to try to gain that gap on them. But then he boxed, and then we were able to just maintain and try to save our battery if we needed it later on then.
Yeah, brilliant. We saw throughout the entire theme of the race, everyone was more than willing to dump their battery, use it a lot, not necessarily anyone going to a recharge or a harvest mode like we saw yesterday. Would you guys agree that it was certainly a bit of an antic race with everyone pushing constantly?
Anyone want to go first?
I guess I could.
Go for it.
With all of us pushing, I think that the antics could have been a little bit, I want to say, like, dive down a little bit. Because, like, last week for Spain, I think it was relatively clean. But with everyone pushing so hard for this race, I know that the points still matter right now. But I think people just need to pipe down a little bit, and then make more cleaner passes and overtakes. But other than that, it could have been a lot more better, but I'm sure the other guys have their different opinions on how they viewed it for today.
Well, for me, I didn't dump the battery. I was sat in P14. I kind of just bided my time, let everybody else dump out. So then I started picking folk off after that.
Yeah, for me with the mediums, in like say practice runs I was doing before today, the mediums in the race were a lot different from what I had anticipated, and whether it was tire pressures or whatever, because I knew it was going to rain, as I changed my tire pressure slightly, I didn't have the same rear traction that I did or I anticipated. So I felt that if I got in the lead and I got clean air, I would have had the pace to pull the gap. But the way the car was handling on mediums, I couldn't get out of that second. So, and I was running quite a low wing setup as well, so it was quite quick in the straight line. So I wanted to try to keep that track advantage. But there was stages where if the guys did try to make an overtake, I would have let them by. But I wanted to get into clean air and try to get because I wanted to get the mediums to lap 20 to go onto the softs at the end. So I wanted to stay in clean air, and I didn't want to use the tires as much as I was if I was, say, second or third, in the dirty air and losing a bit more grip, So that was my logic with using the battery. But the softs were great. So as soon as I went on the softs, it felt like what I anticipated the softs would feel like, But the mediums were just whatever it was in that specific run. They didn't feel like what I was expecting.
Lovely. Got a question for the Ferrari duo. Perfect world, no penalties picked up, fighting for position. Would you swap back to what the qualifying order was, or would you fight it out on track?
I don't think we would go to the qualifying order. I think we get to a stage, Beast, where, for me anyways, is that if we didn't have any penalties and obviously we had a gap back, I would say we'd race until, like, say, the last 2 or 3 laps, and then I would then say we need the whole station at that stage. But I don't know what Beast would say. I wouldn't use qualifying as the judge.
I mean, qualifying is qualifying. Can't really say much about it. It depends on how well you do in qualifying itself. I think with me and Shane, we want to be able to work as a team together and be able to figure out where we're going to go. How are we going to plan our strategy for the race? Because at the start for the race, I was a little bit more trying to figure out what he was going to be doing first, because he was obviously ahead of me, which was a pretty good thing for him. We were trying to figure out our tire strats. Like, at first, I thought he was going to be going for softs, but he opted for the medium, so I decided to do the same thing. But right now, our main focus for constructors is to stay ahead, keep rocking in the points, and making sure that we can get to that last stage of the mid-season where we can pull ourselves ahead of McLaren and whatnot. I know that Craigie has a lot of work to do with himself as well, and for him
the
to
two McLaren
also,
guys are very quick.
Yeah, I would also agree with that as well. McLaren is pretty quick. The duel for Craigie and CJ is pretty good, but I still want to be able to work well with Shane, because there's also going to be times where I'm going to be talking with Shane or with the other guys just to let them know, like, what's going on, and if I'm going to go for the pass or whatnot. So right now our main focus is just to get the points in, get a good qualifying in, and see from there for what happens next.
Lovely stuff.
I know for me with the soft, I wanted to start soft and go mediums, go to lap 14 and then go to the end of mediums. But with the rain coming at the end, I thought that if we went mediums, you might get to, the rain might fall before you need to change the soft. So I gambled more so on going mediums rather, I kind of went for plan B as such, medium soft, rather than plan A as soft medium, because of that rain. If it was going to be dry the full way, I would have went soft medium, and then Beast would have went medium soft, and then maybe towards the end of the race we might have had Sonoda Ricardo moment where we needed to swap. But yeah, but we were working together. Like as B says, we talk strategy before a race. We kind of have an idea what we're both doing. We like even there, I was trying to help Beast get out of that 5-second penalty to Craigie behind, and use that DRS. But when the rain started to fall, we didn't want to, I didn't want to risk a win basically. At that stage, but the teammate side of me came out, and I was like, I wasn't risking having an incident in the wet where if I was 3 or 4 seconds up the road, that could be the difference from winning first or second or whatever like that. So when that rain started to fall, that kind of went out the window.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, like lap 18, like me and Shane had to make a decision on who was gonna pit first, because my front left was pretty much all the way up to 60%. So we made a decision for where I go into the pits first. That 5 seconds kind of did screw me over a little bit, and with the 8 seconds on top of it. We never know what happens because I probably will most likely will be appealing for it, but we'll just have to see what happens if it stays a 1-2 or 1-3 at least.
And I mean, for all three of you, I mean, good building championship-wise. I mean, first 3 rounds for all of you haven't been the worst. You've all picked up some great points. I mean, starting with you, Craggy. Next we've got Zandvoort. Is that a track you're looking forward to?
Yeah, it's one of my stronger tracks. So hopefully, just honours even, repeat of Spain. Hopefully, just maintain and keep going with that.
That's good to hear. I mean, I'm not too sure, B, so I'm not too sure you're pleased about hearing that, but is it a track that you're looking forward to?
Netherlands, I would think it would be one of my tracks as well. Looking at the calendar right now, Portugal was. I want to kind of touch base back on Portugal from last season. It was one of my strongest tracks that I've raced from last season. I did relatively good, got a podium, got another podium this season as well. That just helps the chances. But Netherlands, we'll just have to see what happens for next week. But right now, I think that my chances with Netherlands, it's definitely a good track. A lot of people have different opinions on if it's their strongest or if it's their most track that they can't seem to get the grips with. But I think it should be a good race for next week.
Yeah, and Netherlands be one of my strongest tracks as well. That one, I'm not great around Austria. Abu Dhabi, I'll be pretty okay. Saudi Qatar probably be a bit of a struggle, and then I'll finish off in 2 decent tracks as well. So Netherlands will be one of my probably top 3, I'd say. So I'd be relatively confident going in that I can compete with Craig and the rest of the guys. Like there's guys there that didn't make the podium today that are really quick. Dinarte, Rapid OG, they were there with us for the majority of the first half of the race. So and then I think there's Paddy Pat didn't race today, but he can be challenging at certain races. There's a load of guys here as well. Like there's probably 8 to 10 drivers that probably can win on any given day in this tier. So which is really good. It's really competitive. And that's what you want.
I also want to just mention that Abu Dhabi. Sorry. I just wanted to mention that Abu Dhabi and Belgium will be one of my top 2 strongest tracks for for mid-season once we get there. Because I know that I'm pretty good with Spa. So we'll just see what happens from this season, this starting season and mid-season.
Yeah, and it's always nice to have those tracks near the end of the season where you can try and look forward to and think you can pick up points there. But thanks to all 3 of you for joining for an interview, and well done to all 3 of you. Fantastic work, and good luck for next week at Zandvoort.
Thank you. Thanks. Great comms again, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely stuff.
Thanks, Shane.
Well, talk about a lovely group of drivers once again. Getting spoiled over here at PRL, aren't we?
Yes, we are. I realised that I just I'd said something in the Discord call, but I hadn't realised I was muted here. But yeah, it's great to get their opinions on a lot of these things. Great to hear from them all and just see where they're thinking, what they're looking at, what they're looking forward to in terms of the championship after a fantastic evening of racing. But as we did mention, of course, we will be at Zandvoort next week. It's going to be next Tuesday night for Tier 1, next Wednesday for Tier 2, 9:30 UK for Tuesday's race, 10 o'clock for Wednesdays, and I think Josh and I think it's fair to say we're both looking forward to see what Zandvoort can bring up. Of course, you can get a little bit of rain at Zandvoort, you can get some overtakes down at Turn 1, it can be a very, very exciting track overall, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I believe on the Twitch channel tomorrow night there will be Tier 3, so make sure you're tuning in for that one. But me and Josh, we will see you next Tuesday night for Tier 1 at Zandvoort, and we're thoroughly looking forward to it. But enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you when PRL returns next Tuesday in the Netherlands.
Bye.